Hi, everybody. Thanks, Aro and Poonam, for giving me this opportunity. So, just a little bit of context. I'm based out of Kotagiri in the Nilgiri district in Tamil Nadu. We are based here since the past 27 years now. Our work is with indigenous communities, both in the mountains and marginalized communities in the plains. Aro talked a little bit about the Tamil Nadu Urban Sanitation Support Program, which we are involved in, the TNUSSP in Coimbatore district. So the story of our coming is basically locating the traditional honey collectors and beekeepers of Tamil Nadu, and that's how we came, because we wanted to look at the connection between ecology and economics, between biodiversity and livelihoods on the ground. Fast forwarding that process, we have grown up organically here, looking at conservation, enterprise, and livelihoods, governance in a very integrated way. And we've had a very interesting collaboration with the Cornell University since the past 8-9 years now, almost 10 years. What we have done is the work that we've been doing in the field, out of this campus and in the villages around, we've converted that entire work into a curriculum. And the teachers are the people who are working here, including the Adivasis who are part of our team. And we have been able to sign a MOU with the Cornell University to attract any college from the university who would be willing to be part of the Nilgiri Field Learning Center, but taking only undergraduate students and not more than 6 to 8 in number from their side, and an equal number of Adivasi youth, preferably class 10 pass, or maybe sometimes they're not even class 10 pass, but people who are youth leaders in their areas and in their villages. So that experiment has now gone on for the last 5 years. We have 5 batches that have come out. And I want to share some things in terms of the potential of looking at India's education system from a very, very practitioner's perspective, from almost like a cliff side, from a mountain side. And that gives a little bit of a wide picture as to how we could take some of these things and connect with institutions and with the work that all of you are doing. One is we curated the curriculum to be able to look at the entire Nilgiri Biosphere Reserve. That's like the classroom. That's the entire classroom. The wetlands, the mountain ranges, the wildlife, the indigenous communities, the food gathering strategies, the shelter technologies, everything. So in the first 7 weeks, we basically do a lot of classroom work, and this happens in English, and also we have a translator in Tamil. These tribal kids, they have their own language, the Kurumba, Irula, Toda, Kota, but their common medium language is Tamil, being in Tamil Nadu. So, but sometimes we have to address also people from Kerala, because we work in that part too. So this 6-7 weeks, they immerse a lot in a lot of theoretical knowledge, but modules which have been developed out of the work of our 28 years. So they go to the field, but it's more theory and classroom and more on observations. So what they learn, what a Cornell student brings in is a lot of sharp, analytical, bright, theoretical frameworks onto a certain problem. Let's say we are discussing fallow lands, or we are discussing sustainable farming. But what the Adivasi being embedded here, being a person who is from the land, he or she brings the nuances of ecology, of indigenous knowledge, of culture, of connections to land and water, of local climate stories. And that makes it extremely interesting. The whole class becomes very, very interesting in terms of what they are building up from. So it's because it's a small class and we have several teachers who are working in the field, we've been able to curate this quite a bit. And in the next part, which is the next 6-7 weeks that they have, we put them in the villages, and that's where the Adivasi becomes almost like a guide, a teacher, and change the roles change, and they spend time in the villages with them, and they do very specific projects which go from batch to batch, year to year. It could be on water, it could be on waste, it could be on sustainable agriculture, could be on wildlife movements and human wildlife interactions, all these different things. Now, over the years, we've seen that the Cornell kids, definitely for them, this is a life-changing event that was meant to be. And we've been trying to monitor how does the Adivasi kid, what happens to the child, what happens to this youngster after this 5 months exposure. Not all of them kind of, immediately get ignited. It takes time. It's almost like a seed. It takes time to germinate. But some of them, their leap is tremendous. And they've been getting into different academic pursuits after that. They've been able to move into different NGO spaces after that. They've been able to look at leadership in their villages in a very, very different context. Many of them have joined us as team members and started to contribute. So this experiment of education that we've been working with on the ground, I think throws up a number of conclusions and recommendations and ideas for the bigger landscape and for bigger questions like the education system in India. One is you have to make it as local as possible. I agree with the previous speaker, Mr. Sumit. He talked about not only from the state capitals, it has to get into really rural sides. And even in the rural side, I would say, as much as possible, look at the village, look at the local ecology, look at the local people, how to make education much, much more nuanced and much more nimble that way. That's where I feel that a real enabling environment starts to build in terms of social, in terms of ecological awareness, in terms of tapping what they knew in the past and how those things have been forgotten. A certain element of pride comes in when you're talking about their local ecology and their local home ranges and local ancestral domains. They've been able to sort of take that back in a very different context. So I would say make it as local as possible. That's one. The interaction of a multidisciplinary approach, an interdisciplinary approach. In this case, we've been able to bring in international students into this place. That makes it extremely rich and makes it very interesting. It's not pedantic in that way, not mediocre in that way that you're just talking to the same set of people. This interaction, this exchange, I think, brings in a lot of relevance and throws up new ideas that can continue. Because after this 15 weeks or the 5 months, they go back to their areas. So new initiatives can start, which has been incubated during this field learning center immersion, so to say. The third, I would say, is that the government is a very important player. The district administration, that's a very, very important place. How do we link up an initiative like this with the district administration, with the education department, and with a number of departments that operate within the region? The forest department, for example, the people who work on water resources, for example, education department for sure. How do we involve these kind of people into this exchange that has an active advocacy part for the public, For example, in Nilgiri district, we have 20 departments that operate, which are under the collector. We've been able to engage with different departments during this field learning course that we do. We bring in the panchayat leaders, or we bring in the collector, we bring in a DFO, and then they go out and also see what these people work, or even the police department for that matter. What kind of systems that they work in, what are the kind of administration issues they have, what is the kind of education impetus or inputs they bring into these different sectors. So having been here for some time now, I feel that going back to the basics is really important, because we run away with a model where we think things work, but if we evaluate it again back onto the drawing board, we realize that again things could have been rejigged and reinvented again. And I would stop at that, because I feel going back to the drawing board and redesigning our strategies for action in terms of education which builds intuition, which builds real vibrant awareness of ecology, of surroundings, of nature, of communities, and livelihoods connected to all these things. That really is something which will go far in terms of transforming education for our country. Thank you so much.